Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. It's mid-June, it's hot, and we've been out here in the shop working in this heat for the last, well, it's been quite a few months since I posted a video. I've got a couple to edit, but I thought I'd do a little bit of filming today to finish up our Nerf bars here. We've done quite a few other projects since the last video. Sheet metal sides we've been installing with some compartments in them. The roll bar is back out of the truck and ready for paint. And we've finished the exhaust system. We've run it all the way to the rear with a handmade stainless steel tailpipe there. But this is what we're working on today, Nerf bars with a step. I created this one several months ago, and just I cut the parts out for the right side. I cut the parts for the left side as well, and then I thought I'd show you guys how we made the parts and how we're going to assemble them. All right, the main part of the Nerf bar is a 3-inch pipe. It's actually muffler pipe. It's aluminized, probably not the best. I wish I could have sourced it not aluminized, but this was easy to come by and fairly reasonably priced. I think I bought, I don't know, about 4 or 5 sticks of this stuff in the last couple of years, and this last 2 sticks that I bought went up significantly in price, like everything else in the world today. All right, so 3-inch pipe. This wall thickness is, I think it's 60 thousandths. All right, 80 thousandths. And the smaller piece for the step is 1 3/4 inch. It's what we've been using for the roll bar. 100 thousandths wall thickness on that. And then our plates that we're going to use to mount it is made out of 1/4 inch flat stock that I got from my local metal distributor. So all 1/4 inch stock, just cut it out on the bandsaw and drilled a big hole in here just really for looks. And these round pieces that'll fit around the 3-inch pipe here to make our brackets, I just heated those and bent those over a piece of solid 3-inch round stock that I had. Just formed them, hot formed them, and then drilled holes in those that we're going to use to attach it to this 3-inch pipe. Hardware wise, a bunch of bolts, 5/16, 18. These are 1 1/4 inch long. These are grade 8 bolts. Originally I just went down and bought hardware store grade 4 bolts, thinking there's plenty, there's 3 mounts here and there's 6 bolts in each mount. Grade 4 ought to be just fine. Well, ran the nuts on the bolts several times. The thread started to get gummy and cross thread, so had to take all that back apart, grind them off, weld these grade 8 nuts on there, grade 8 bolts on there, and I also bought some nuts, some steel lock nuts while I was at it. It worked a lot better. All right, the end caps. I didn't want just flat end caps here. Wanted a little bubble to them. So we formed those. The front side's the same way. We're right here, just a little bubble. Just started with, cut a piece of this pipe, slid it this way, flattened it out, and then made this form block here, just a piece of plywood, cabinet ply, 3/4 inch. Glued a piece to the end of this round stock that I had, and then shaped it with a little bit of a cone to it, and put the muffler stock in there, the steel, pressed it with my hydraulic press, and then I'll make a better circle on here, a nice round circle, just using a piece of the 3-inch pipe to form the circle. Cut it out with the bandsaw, and I usually have to hammer it a little bit to kind of smooth it out around the edges. and then weld them on the ends here, make it nice and bubbled. A little bit better finish to them, I think. Stainless. This is a piece of 601, and it's fairly thick. 72 thousandths what that's showing, so fairly good thick piece of stainless. This is a real thin, I think this is 25 thousandths. Yep, 25025. So I've bought two pieces. The top piece, the thick piece, is what we formed. We curved it, made all these little dimples in it for traction, and made a little die to do that. I'll show you how we did that on the press. And then the 25 thousandths, the thin stuff, is up underneath this. So when you get in and out of the truck and the dirt starts filling up in these holes, it's not sitting on this this steel pipe. And it's also made to take apart. Just two screws holding it in here, and you can clean it and then put it back together. So our task today is to make the left side look exactly, exactly like the right side here. Once we get both of them done, pull them back off the truck, I think I'm going to coat them with that lizard skin bed liner, give it a little bit of a texture, and then put them back on the truck. So here we go. All right, well, this pipe is aluminized, and I think I mentioned it earlier. It's not the it's not the best to use. It actually kind of wreaks havoc when you start to weld it, the aluminized coating on it. But we'll sand that on back once we get everything kind of finalized here. As you can probably tell, I've cut this off on a little bit of an angle. It's just an angle that I think it's about 10 degrees, maybe 12 degrees. But it'll look good with the fender, with the way the front fender is cut. So that's the reason why this is cut on an angle. This pipe has already been cut to the length. It's been sitting around the shop for a while. Ben's got a couple of projects going on in here, and I wanted to kind of get this mapped out or cut out so the material didn't get used for something else. So I've already cut that, cut it to length, cut the angle on it. You saw I just kind of cleaned up the ends to make it easier to handle. And now I'm going to set it up. Hey, don't look at my holy shirt. I'm going to set it up on some jack stands here into position so we can start working on the mounts. All right, we're all set up here on the jack stands and pretty close to where it needs to be, forward and aft, and height-wise, and kind of tucked up underneath the rocker panel there. So let's slide underneath and see what the mounting brackets are going to look like. All right, here we are looking at the right-hand side, the side that's completed, and we can see the brackets that we built. At least two of them. The third one's back here. A little hard to get a shot of all three in the frame, but we're fortunate with the Blazer that we have a true rocker box. So this is a box structure that was built to stiffen the body, like a convertible, where they have to stiffen the body when you take the top off of a car, and that's the way they did it here on the Blazer with these rocker boxes. Made out of fairly thick metal. I'm going to say it's about 65 thousandths, and it's a great structure to mount our nerf bars on. So as you can see, these brackets are fairly hefty. It's 6 bolts in each one, and we got them slotted a little bit so we can adjust the nerf bar to get the clearance from the body that we want. So we're going to move over to the left side now and mark out where we're going to place these brackets and get to drilling some holes. All right, I tried to mount these brackets as close to the front end of the pipe and as close to the back end of the pipe as possible with the forward bracket and the aft bracket. just to give the pipe as much stability as possible. Now, doing that meant I kind of had to create a shim. Our bracket's going to land half on this doubler and half on the original material of the rocker box. Now, this is not stock. I cut the end of these rocker boxes out. There's a cab support inside this rocker box, and both of them were fairly rusty. I wound up cleaning all the rust out of the rocker box areas and replacing or repairing those cab supports, and then fabricating a new cap to go on the end of the rocker box. Well, that actually turned out to be pretty good for this operation as well, because it's going to add a lot of structure right here as well. It's going to double up the strength of this rocker box here. So we can't go completely on our patch on the end here, our new end panel, because of that cab structure inside. So we have to kind of split the seam there and to go half on the outer piece and then half on the original rocker box area. You can see that here on the right hand side where we had to split the difference there and then make a shim for it. All right, we've got our spots marked out here. Unfortunately, it covers up some of the drain holes here. We're gonna have to fix that with some new drain holes. But let me show you, let me take you up top here and show you what comes next and why we're doing what we're doing. All right, we're gonna drill 6 holes in each one of those positions on the bottom side of the rocker box panel and the lower skin of that rocker box panel. We will weld these bolts to the top of this plate here and then maneuver this plate inside the rocker box to let those bolts drop down through those 6 holes that we're about to cut in the lower skin of that rocker box panel. Once that's in position, then we can use these brackets to bolt on the bottom side of the rocker box and you know, install the nuts and tighten the nuts down without the bolts spinning. We won't have to have a wrench on the top side of these bolts. We can take these nerf bars on and off by just taking the nuts off from the outside. Once all that's in place, then of course these brackets here will get welded to these plates, and then the cradle to that bracket. That's going to allow us to cradle that 3-inch pipe and make a pretty secure mount. All right, we got both ends welded up and polished out just with the flapper wheel and then the DA, and it really doesn't have to be perfect, although I think they came out pretty good. Like I said, I'm going to put that lizard skin on it, or I guess it's called Raptor liner is what I'm going to use, and it's got quite a bit of texture to it. So, you know, little scrapes and bumps like that in this aluminized muffler tubing is certainly not going to show up underneath that lizard skin or Raptor liner. I'll get it right. So you can see where I had to polish it back, or I did polish it back. Hopefully you can see that. I take that luminize off around the end here, as well as off the end cap, just to make it weld up a little easier. If you don't get it out of there, it fusses with the weld a little bit. So sand that on back and then weld it up, and it'll do just fine. So that's done. I spent a good bit of time. That looks pretty rough, right? Well, that's what it takes to get it in the rocker box up against that structure, that cab support up there. I'll try to get the camera up there tomorrow and show you a picture of that. But I've had it in there. I've had all these in. This one, same deal. There's a rear cab support or some kind of structure in there. I guess that's maybe B-pillar support here. And there's a rod that goes from it kind of kitty corner across that rocker box to give it some torsional support, I guess. It's just like a 3/8 rod welded right about here. It goes this way diagonally across to the other side of it. So that's what that little tunnel's there to clear that rod. This one's the easy one. It was pretty straightforward. But all these have been fitted and ready to go back in. Just some leftover primer here on the top of these. Before I drop them in there, I'll shoot some undercoating on the bottom side of them to kind of bed them in that undercoating, and then undercoat over the top of them as well to give them rust protection for the next century. All right, that's about it. Been a long, not really a long day, but about 7 o'clock now, and I guess 6 o'clock, only 6 o'clock, wow. But it's been hot out here all day, and I think it's beer 30, so I'll talk to you folks in the morning. Good morning. Didn't get any cooler outside, and I inadvertently left the shop open all night long, so yeah, let's see. Yeah, didn't really cool off much in here either. All right, we got quite a bit of work to do today. Hopefully, I would like to finish up this nerf bar. So let's get to it. All right, nerf bar is all positioned where we want it. Now we'll slide underneath and position these brackets so we can mark them. What we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do here, is just really get a feeling for whether the spacing is right and whether I need to add any shims underneath this. And I think this is going to be fine. I want these bottom two holes to be kind of directly on the bottom side of the tube. And then once I get it in position, I'll just mark the end of this bracket here, and then take this one out and weld it. Weld these two pieces together, then I'll be able to bring it back in, hold it in position, and tack it in place. Our brackets are welded and bead blasted and treated, and we'll figure out just exactly how to adjust them underneath the truck. All right, all three brackets are in place, and I just put them up there loosely at first, and then use some fairly large zip ties there to hold them to the pipe. And once I got the zip ties cinched down, then I went back in and tightened the mounting bolts down. Now everything's in place, and I should be able to just drill the holes for the rivets. All right, this is probably when a sane person would stop and be done with these brackets. But actually, when I thought of this idea, when I kind of designed this in my head, this is where I was going to leave it, with just 4 1/4-inch pop rivets in each bracket. And actually, on the other side, the right hand side, I did that, and I actually used some structural adhesive in here just to kind of bond things together and to keep the moisture out of it. But the more I looked at it, I couldn't leave well enough alone. So I wound up welding around the brackets, and that created quite a mess with that structural adhesive in there. So this side I'm going to do without the adhesive. I'm just going to weld around the brackets. And then I won't have to worry about these pop rivets working loose. There will be quite a bit of torsional load on this thing as my overly dense body steps on that step. And you know, I don't know what the arm is on it, 6 or 8 inches. Anyways, put some torsional load on it. So this will really secure things up with just running a bead around each one of those brackets. We mounted the Nerf bar back on the truck, and we bent our step pipe 1 3/4 with 45-degree bends on it. And I just got it laid up here next to the Nerf bar. I'm going to lay a straight edge from this corner right here to the same corner on the other side, and just cut off this inside corner here so we can get it up closer to the pipe. And then once we get it up closer to the pipe, we'll be able to scribe it for cutting it to shape so that it'll fit up nice on the 3-inch pipe. Well, that works pretty good. Gets us kind of in the ballpark there, and we, still not a great fit. But what we'll do is we'll set these this compass up to really where the widest gap is, and then just trace around it. I'm not going to be able to do a very good job here around this camera, but you'll get the gist of it here. I gotta move this pointer out a little bit more, but I either did. It's been so long since I've done the other side. I can't remember if I used the compass. A lot of times I'll use a scribe, and I might have to go to that if I can't get a good mark with this compass. But I'm right on the edge there where that jagged line is. The scribe will get in here a little better, I think. I say scribe, I mean a divider. But you get the gist of it there, and I'll get all the way around on both sides, the inside and the outside, or the top and the bottom here, and then I'll take it over to the just the flapper wheel, and most likely just grind it back to my line there with the flapper wheel. Well, it didn't take very long at all. Just a little bit of time with the flapper wheel, and you can make a pretty good joint. That's going to TIG up just fine. I'll probably somehow figure out. We're kind of working over here on on the wrong side of the shop. The welder's over on the other side, and I'm going to have to figure out. I'll probably get the MIG gun over here. It's kind of easier to stretch out. But I'll probably just tack it in place with the MIG, and then TIG it. Take the Nerf bar back off and take it over to the bench. I'd say bench because there's not a bench in this shop that's not filled with something. I got to get some projects out. All right, so that's it. I'm going to tack away and remove and TIG, and then we're down to just the stainless plates. So that's a little bit of a process too, but we'll get to that. Probably won't get to it till tomorrow. All right, all welded up and sanded up, and ready to move on to the next part. Didn't get out here quite early enough this morning to beat the heat. Matter of fact, it's hot. It's 91. Turn the redneck air conditioning on. Helps some, but tough to film when it's running. And Ben's doing some welding, so it's tough to weld with that breeze blowing through here. But here's our next project. It's the stainless plate that we need to turn into the traction plate, for lack of a better term. Traction plate's what we'll call it. And I cut it, I've marked it 2 inches. The traction plate is only 2 inches wide. I've cut the stainless to 4 inches wide. You'll see why down the road here it makes it easier to bend when it's wider, and then we'll cut it down to size once we get it bent and drilled. But right now 2 inches wide. The holes are spaced a 1/2 inch apart, and this way, long ways, they're 1/2 inch apart. So 3 rows, and they're 1 inch apart, staggered. So I'll start laying that out now. We'll actually mark it, I'll dimple it, but I won't drill it until after I've bent it. It probably would work okay if we drilled it first and then bent it, but I thought maybe if I drilled it first and then started to bend it, it would kind of kink where the skin is, or the stainless is actually weakened where those rows of holes are. So I didn't want to risk that. So I originally, on the original one, the first one I made, I dimpled them, marked it all out. It's easier to mark out when it's flat. And then used a center punch to center punch all the holes, and then bent it, and then drilled the holes. A little harder to drill the holes with a bent piece, but I think it worked out fine. So that's the direction we'll head now. All right, center punched 70 spots on here for 70 holes. 2 of them will be screw holes, and the rest will be those dimpled traction holes. Now we're going to move over to the press here and start to curl this, or roll it. Now we'll roll it this direction. So this will be the top side in the press, and I've drawn a center line down the center of it to help me keep it centered up in the die here, or the press, as we work our way down. All right, here's a little V-block I made actually quite some time ago for bending up some pretty thick steel. I believe it was for the engine mount when we put the Cummins in, and I've used it quite a few times since then to bend other stuff, that fairly thick stock. Now I have just recently made this press part of it just for this process, and it works really well. Now we'll start the bend to get the bulk of the bend done with this V brake, this V die, and then as we get pretty close with it, we'll finish it off with this insert that I made out of some aluminum pipe to make it nice and round, so it'll fit that 1 3/4 inch pipe pretty well. Now, I think this is stand by. Yeah, I think it's 1.5 inch, 1.5 round stock. But by the time it springs back, fits that 1 3/4 inch pipe really well. Took a little bit of trial and error to get all this worked out, but obviously we had the other side to work out those kinks with. So let's start bending this. I'll see if I can get the camera set up where you guys can watch the process. All right, you can see the spring back here. A good bit. All right, so there's the bent stainless. You can see why we had to leave it long here. So we had a place for it to fit down in the die. Now we can trim this off. I probably won't trim it off yet until after I get done drilling the holes. I can't remember on the last one what I did, but I'll need to probably re-prime this, remark it. I've kind of lost my edge here where the 2-inch mark is, but I think I see it there, right on the edge of where that primer is skinned off there. But repaint it, I'll probably drill it, repaint it, mark it, and then cut it. And then we'll get to dimpling. All right, here's the next process. Well, let's talk about this. I've sanded this with some 150 and then some 220 to get the burrs off the drilled holes and to give it the look that I want on the truck. Because once we dimple this with 68 dimples on it, it'll be difficult to change the texture of it then, because it'll be rough. And I also cleaned the inside of it with a well, I did it with a flapper disc first, and then I went back over it with a drum sander just to get the burrs off the inside of these holes as well. And now it's dimpling time. This is a dimple die that I made. Turn this on the lathe, and both the male end of it can we say that anymore? Oh no. Anyways, the protruding end of it and then the receiving end of it. And I wound up, as you can tell from the blue tint to it, I had to heat treat it because it was not strong enough with bare metal or raw metal, or untempered metal is probably the correct way of saying it, to dimple this stainless. So I had to heat treat it. Turned it on the lathe, heated it up to a cherry red, oil dipped it, quenched it in oil, and then polished it again, and then back at it with the heat until it turned this bluish, or really straw color is what you're looking for, and then re-quench. And it was a straw color when I quenched. That will, the first dip will harden it, second dip will temper it to keep it from being so brittle. That's the best of my knowledge, the way the process works. And that's been a long time ago since I had metalworking class in high school that taught me that. Thanks, Phil Faulkner. Okay, so let's get to work here. 68 holes to go. These two on opposite ends here will not be dimpled because they take a screw. I left them undersized so I would not screw up and dimple them. So let's get at it. This is a little bit laborsome or painful process here, but it works. So takes it quite a bit of force. And dimpled. On to the next. All right, let's pull that out. All right, see what it does. It makes a nice raised, fairly sharp to the finger dimple inside. Inside this, oops, let me see, get in there. Not so exciting in there, but a nice little dimple here raised up, which will give us lots of traction for getting in the truck with our flip-flops or Crocs on. Well, good morning. I think this is what day 4 of this project, and it shouldn't have taken that many days. Well, it's not really true. It hasn't taken 4 days. It's been 4 partial days. But hey, life gets in the way. You just press on through. All right, we're gonna mark this, or put some marker on here so we can scribe it, and then trim it back to our 2 inches that we need, and we'll match the width of the other one. And I can't remember, I think last time I cut this with the whiz wheel, and then cut it close to the line, and then just use the flapper disc to true it up. It'd be difficult to put it in there on the bandsaw. I don't know, maybe the perils of cutting it with the whiz wheel is it's just dirty and nasty, and it gets hot enough that it makes this magic marker go away. So it would be nice to be able to cut it with a bandsaw, but oh well, the edge is tapered there. That's why I keep zipping off the edge like that. There we go. All right. What I may do is scribe it here, and then draw a piece of tape across that, and that way the tape won't go away, although that magic marker probably will with the heat. All right, well, the only way to get that done is just mask up, put your glasses on and gloves on, and just dig in, because oh, that is not my favorite part. But I had a couple of offline excursions here. You'll probably see a little bit here. You might the old whiz wheel went skipping across outside of the line there, and might have to do a little sanding on that to get it faired out. But we're getting there. See if I can get the glue and the ink cleaned off of that, and see what we need to do about cleaning up that scuff mark. I think I did it twice. Yeah, one right here as well. So we'll hit that with the palm sander, and then clean these edges up a little better as well. They're a little bit jagged yet. And then shape the ends, and that piece will be done. All right, all trimmed up to the proper width, and our next step is to make our little plate that goes underneath out of the 25 thousandths, just our protection plate to keep the garbage from building up and laying on top of that steel pipe. So we'll do it the same way, or bend it the same way over in the press, using that aluminum mold that I made with the anvil, the 1.5 inch anvil. That'd be a simple process just to curl that around, and then we'll bolt it up. I'll be able to scribe it, and then trim this up to the proper size. All right, let's put it on, see how we did. All right, looks pretty good. Now, back apart. Gonna try to possibly paint them in the next couple of days with the Raptor liner. So back off the truck, and a little bit more sanding, and then figure out how I'm going to spray that that liner on there. I've never used it before, but shouldn't be that difficult. All right, that's it. That's the Nerf bars. I'll if I get them painted, I'll put some still shots in there of the final product. But hey, that's how we built our Nerf bars.